Okay, good afternoon to all of you. I'll get started. Please take your seat. Yeah, it will be nice if you can take. Today I'm here to talk about how we used measures to forward volunteerism in Cognizant. So before starting, I want to talk to you about Jim Grant. You know, he's my role model as far as social sector goes. Can you move the slide? I think it's not working. Jim Grant. Anybody has heard of Jim Grant? Anyone here has heard of Jim Grant? Actually, he was the head of UNICEF in 1979. He was made the head of UNICEF in 1979, and he was instrumental in changing the face of UNICEF. During his time, 14 million children in the developing world were dying because of diseases. 14 million children, and about 5 to 6, a majority of them were dying because of 5 to 6 diseases which were totally preventable because immunization was available for them, like typhoid, measles, whooping cough, all of which had immunization, and the cost of immunization was very low. It was like not even an expensive thing that these developing countries could not afford. But less than 15% of the children in the developing countries were getting immunized. And another cause of death was dehydration due to diarrhea. And you know how dehydration is easily preventable. If those of us in our childhood, we have seen it. I don't know if other younger people would have seen it. You mix salt and sugar in water and you feed the child regularly this solution, and you will prevent dehydration. It will cost less than 5 paisa to make that whole mixture. But there was zero adoption. Nobody knew about it, and because of it, every year 3 million children were dying. And what he said is, when he took over UNICEF, he set himself this goal, that we will start a child survival revolution, and we will halve the number of children dying every year. Like currently 14 million children are dying, and we will halve it. We'll keep on halving this figure. And how will we do it? We'll have a targeted immunization program. We'll make sure that all the children in developing world are immunized against these 5 diseases. And we will also make sure this oral rehydration salt, that is this salt and sugar mixture, is used by families to prevent dehydration. And he set himself a measurable goal. He said, yes, this is 1980. By 1985, we will more than double the immunization rate. Currently, it's at 15%. We will make it 40% by 1985. And by 1990, we'll make it 80%. This was the goal he set for the organization. And just to understand the audacity of the goal, you should know what was happening in UNICEF at that time. At that time, UNICEF was reaching out to about few hundred children every year. Maximum in a year, they will reach 1,000 children in all these countries put together. And here, Jim Grant was talking about reaching out to 400 million children. And every year, another 100 million children were going to be added to this equation. So it looked like an impossible goal, but that didn't stop Jim Grant. So what he did is he went and met every leader of every country, the 121 countries. He went and met their leaders, and when he met them, what was he armed with? He was armed with statistics. So he will go to this prime minister, president of the country, and he'll say, see, so many children are currently immunized in this country, and so many children are not immunized, and because of it, so many children are going to die. And this would be the cost of immunizing them. This would be the cost of immunizing them. And he also had in his packet that mixture, salt and sugar mixture, which he showed. See, this is all it will cost to prevent death due to diarrhea. So all he had was a set of numbers which he showed the heads of the states. And they were inspired. See, it costs only so much to save children's life. And UNICEF was, as an organization, also was under a lot of pressure because of this audacious goal. But it was easy to measure performance of his staff. Every country representative was measured by how much the immunization rate had increased in their country, and how much oral rehydration salts were being used. So once the El Salvador, there's a South American country, right? So the representative there, nothing was happening in the country. Immunization was not increasing. And he asked, what is happening? Why is the immunization rate not increasing in your country? And he said, there is a civil war happening. You know, government and guerrilla forces are fighting, so most of the country is inaccessible. To anybody else, that would have been a valid and reasonable explanation. But for Jim Grant, it was not. He said, why can't they stop the war for a few days to get the children immunized? So next day he took a flight, went and met the church authorities. the religious leaders and got their buy-in. And with the representative of the church, he met both the guerrilla leaders and the government leaders. And he got them to agree for a 3-day ceasefire every year to immunize the children. So the war went on for many years, but every year, however severe the war was, 3 days they'll stop the fighting so that the children were immunized. And he did not have like everybody supporting him and saying, wow, this is a great goal. He had a lot of detractors. So other people in the UNICEF and world leaders were asking, is this the kind of goal you should set for yourself? When you're dealing with children, you have so many other things to deal with. You have to deal with education, poverty issues, but you made your goal so lopsided, so focused, you've forgotten about all the other things that needs to be done. But then, again, numbers came to his rescue. By 1985, 40% of the children were immunized. And this resulted in millions of children being saved. So it just shut the mouth of all the people who were criticizing him for his goal. And by 1990, as he had set, within 10 years of setting the goal, he had like now 80% immunization rate. 80% immunization rate. All the 121 countries, developing countries in the world, had reached that immunization rate. And single-handedly, he's credited with saving the lives of 20 million people, 20 million children, 20 million children. And it's, it's not that he did it by himself. As a single person, you cannot do it. He had a huge social mobilization, not only the governments, he got the buy-in of the NGOs in each country, the education institution, the religious leaders, corporates. Polio was eliminated by Rotary in India, right? That was also Jim Grant's goal, to eliminate Rotary. So all these organizations worked together to achieve the goal. But how did they manage to do it? Because as a leader, he was able to set a single measurable goal towards which all their energies could be channelized. So he used numbers as his ally. He made numbers as his ally. And he proved the ancient dictum. Just move to the next slide. I think you're moving to the previous slide. Yeah. What gets measured gets done. In spite of a lot of criticism about measurement, I want to tell you this, that what gets measured gets done. He's a great visionary here. He had great leadership skills, but I think one of his biggest strengths was ability to use numbers and get people to understand, get people mobilized to the common goal. So I want to talk to you about how we use numbers to galvanize people within the organization. So I will talk about our measurement journey. Moving on. See, briefly I want to tell you about how we launched the program and what was the purpose of launching the program. Those who were there in the morning session would have heard that outreach was launched in November 2007. There's an interesting story behind why we launched this program. See, 2007 was the year when blogging became very popular in Cognizant. So across the globe, all our offices, associates used to share stories, their personal stories also, what they were doing with themselves. And we realized there were many people in the organization who were involved in community service, who were involved in volunteering. These were some examples. This person, he was selling samosas for a living. His father also was selling samosas for a living. He got 87% and got admission in an engineering college. You just give this thing to me. So our associate sponsored his school education. And then this is a small orphanage very close to our office, and it was about to be closed down due to lack of funds. Our associates pitched in, and they used to fund them, and their birthdays and wedding days, they used to celebrate there and donate provisions to the orphanage, and they helped keep it open. So we got to hear such interesting stories across the organization, and we thought when there is so much interest in our community, in our associate community, to do this kind of work, we should give them the necessary resources to do it effectively. We should back them with the financial and administrative strength of Cognizant. And that's how outreach was born. Okay. Previous slide. I think it's very difficult. Let's go to the previous slide. Yeah, it'll be really nice if you can do it. Thank you. So this is how we are structured. When you say we are launching a volunteering program, it's not like we are having a small group of people and get them to go and work in an organization. We are looking at a large organization. Currently we are about 2 lakh plus people in the organization. When we launched, we were close to 1 lakh people in the organization, and we had to give them a structure, a platform to do it effectively. So this is how we organized ourselves. We had a central program management office, which was a small team of 4 people when we started. And we invited every business unit, that is every department in the organization, to form outreach councils. So outreach councils were basically volunteering bodies who would shape the course of volunteering in their department. So to be part of an outreach council, you need not be a senior person. We wanted only one person to be senior because we were giving a budget to these outreach councils. But the rest of the council composition was made up of people who are passionate about volunteering. So even if you're an entry-level person, you could be part of the council if you're willing to give your time and effort to volunteering. And these councils will decide how they want to shape volunteering for their BU. They will decide on what kind of organizations they want to partner with, what kind of projects they want to do. They will also be responsible for mobilizing volunteers within their department. And we centrally would give them the financial and administrative support to do it. We'll also give them the expertise to do it well. So this is how we were structured. So initially when we started, since our focus was education, we started partnering with schools in the neighborhoods of our offices. First, we sent out an invitation for all departments to form outreach councils. Not everybody started on day one. There were a few departments who agreed to start councils. And those people, we helped them partner with our neighborhood schools. You know how all IT companies are. We are there on OMR, and it's a developing area. So you have this huge swanky office, and just across the road, you'll have children going to school without slippers, and with bad infrastructure. So that was an obvious choice for us. And our associates used to do all these volunteering activities, teach regularly, conduct inter-school competition, do arts and crafts sessions, develop infrastructure in the schools. So in the initial years of outreach, when we launched the outreach, our goal was this: no volunteer should be left behind. From the beginning, we never wanted everybody in the organization to volunteer. That's not for everybody. Like in the morning session, somebody was telling, right, how do we have the time? We have so many restrictions and so many challenges. There should be people motivated enough to overcome those challenges and willing to volunteer, right? We wanted only those people. But if anybody interested in volunteering, we wanted to make sure they're not left behind because of lack of opportunity. We wanted to provide opportunities for every interested volunteer in the organization. So that was our first goal: no volunteer left behind. So as we grew, by 3 years of outreach, we had by the time become mainstream. Almost all BUs had a volunteering program, and a lot of volunteering activities were happening. And we knew at that point that we had reached an inflection point. It is going to grow to the next higher level, but we needed to do something to bring it to the next higher level. So what were the points we thought about? First, after 3 years, we realized that not all volunteering is equal. You know, you go and distribute notebooks in a classroom, spend 1 hour to do that, and you go and teach in a classroom and spend 1 hour to do it. Both are not equal. The kind of impact you make, the kind of commitment it requires is different. So we didn't want to merely measure the strength of our volunteering by the number of volunteering hours we clocked, but also the type of volunteering we did. And we have this diverse group of volunteers, most of them working with schools, but all of them doing different things. So it will be based on what the principal wants, what the school wants, and what they feel is worthwhile. Nobody so it was like, you know, very scattered, lot of different things happening, but nobody working towards a common goal. So how do we give a common goal to our huge and diverse volunteering population? And then we had all these BUs doing a lot of work, but they had no way of understanding how they were faring with respect to others. Is there like a leeway to do better? Can they do things differently? Because there was no industry benchmark, and within the company also we were not giving them any benchmarks. So the goal of the program was that's how we launched the Impact Index, to give all these things, to put all these things in place. We launched our measurement system. And the goal was to go beyond volunteering hours. It's not just about the volunteering hours, but also the type of volunteering you do. So when we launched the program, these were our goals: to benchmark our performance. So when a council sees its index, it should know how it is faring with respect to all other departments which are doing volunteering, and how it can improve its performance. Then create more volunteering opportunities. So in the first year of outreach, we had about 200 volunteers. And then you could do all the activities in the school with limited set of volunteers. But what about providing opportunities for everybody who's interested? So we wanted to make sure our measurement will lead to that. And we also wanted to direct them towards high value volunteering. So what do we mean by high value volunteering? In the first year of outreach, when we started teaching, it was one school on OMR, and we visited the school, and they had like computers donated by everybody in the IT corridor. Everybody had donated computers, and they were just lying in a corner room gathering dust. There was no teacher there to even know how to switch on the system and how to set the network in place. So once we started partnering with the school, our volunteers set up the whole lab. We networked it, we installed the right software, and every week we used to go and teach computer science and English to the 12th standard students. And in the 12th standard board exam, we got 100% pass in these two subjects. These two subjects only, all the students passed, whereas the overall pass percentage was only 61%. So that's when we realized that regular teaching is one of the most high value activity we can do. We was initial years with a lot of work with setting up libraries and labs, and we found that even though you set them, you need people to utilize them safely. I remember we set up this expensive lab in the school, and it was just locked, and it will be opened only when the CEO, the Chief Education Officer comes, and they'll show, see, our school will set up the lab. And we asked them, why aren't you getting the children to read it? Because they tear the books. That's the excuse. They know what is the purpose of setting up a library if the children are not reading? So one of the most, through the 3 years of volunteering, we realized that engaging with the children, doing regular teaching activity was the highest impact activity we can do. So these were the parameters we had in the initial days. This is the first version 1 of our index. Volunteering hours clocked. We benchmarked it to be twice the head count of a department. If a department had 1,000 people, then in a year they should clock at least 2,000 volunteering hours. Number of activities. Because of our second goal, we wanted to create more volunteering opportunities. So if anybody is interested in volunteering, they should be able to see all these opportunities are available for us. So we said every BU should at least have 4 volunteering activities in a month. So number of live stats, 3 times the head count. And we had this activity type. For our third goal, to make sure we direct our volunteering towards high value volunteering. So we categorized all the activities we were doing into 4. This is just a sample, into 4 categories. So the type 1 is what we categorize as the lowest value volunteering. So if you spend 1 hour of doing that, that will be the lowest value. And type 4 is the highest value, that is teaching in schools. So we computed the index with these 4 parameters. Can you just move? So, and this is how an index would look. Every month we would publish this to all the councils, all the BUs, and we will also publish it to the executive management. So when would you be in green? If you are exceeding the benchmark in all the 4 parameters. Volunteering hours, like the lives impacted, number of activities, and also the activity type is high value. Then you will get a green. Otherwise you will be in yellow or red. So if you see, beginning when we launched this index, in May 2011 we launched this index. This is how all the BUs were. And by December, most of them had moved to green. So because we had given, it was really serving, it validated our index. We knew that we were driving towards the goals we had set for ourselves. And there was a healthy competition. Now councils would come back and ask, why am I red? So many of our associates are volunteering. And then we will tell them, you should do this, you should do more regular teaching, you should move up the value chain in volunteering. So even for my own team, it gave them goals through which their performance also was measured. So see how we progressed because of measurement. When we started Q1 2011, the number of volunteering hours was 11,000. By Q2 2011, it was 15,000, and it was May of, that is the second quarter, we launched the index. And by the third quarter, we had hit 39,000 volunteering hours. And it remained steady at that. So that year, we clocked 1 lakh volunteering hours, compared to the previous years of 20,000 volunteering hours. So So then we knew at this point that our index had served its purpose. We can't leave it as it is. We will have to make sure, we have to make it more granular, more challenging to ace the index. So by the time when we analyzed the index, we found that number of activities, people were just, all councils were doing 4 activities per month. So we revised the benchmark to double that. We made it 8 activities per month. And another thing we changed was academic teaching. So if you see in the last version of the index, if you remember, we had given the highest weightage to academic teaching. We made it type 4. So in this, we introduced a new parameter, that is regular academic teaching. At least 4 times you should have taught the same set of children. Then it will get a higher weightage, that is type 5. So we introduced a type 5 activity. Yeah. Yes, I will come back to that. Volunteer hours and life touch, we didn't change. We just, every time we'll analyze and see what we have to change in order to drive towards the momentum we are looking at. So at that point, we thought these are the 2 things we need to change. So if you see in 2012, that is between 2011 to 2012, again volunteering hours doubled. We hit a 2 lakh volunteering hour from the previous year, 1 lakh volunteering hour. But the doubling was entirely in categories 3, 4 and 5. That is, low value volunteering just increased by 28%, but the high value in volunteering increased by 167%. So again, it gave us a lot of, we felt that our index was achieving what we had envisioned for it to achieve. I'm not sure about that. I don't have the numbers. It was not directly proportional. We would have maybe grown by 30% in employee count at that time, but we had a volunteering hour had doubled by that time. Okay, so by this time, since we were clocking so many volunteering hours, we thought we should set higher goals for ourselves. Do you remember what was our initial goal? Anybody can tell me? No volunteer left behind. That is, anybody interested in volunteering should be able to do it, should have the opportunity to volunteer. So since we are clocking so many volunteering hours and our work was predominantly in the schools, like 70-80% of our volunteering hours were clocked in our schools. So we thought we should set a goal for ourselves in the schools that we work with. So my boss, he asked me, what is your gym grant goal? And we all as a team brainstormed and we came up with this goal called 100 to the power of 4. By the time we were working with 100 schools across India, and we said in those 100 schools, we should get 100% pass, 100% graduation and 100% employability. We said that as, initially we started it as a goal, being very idealistic, and then we realized it is more of a vision statement because the schools were so far ahead. Believe it or not, we set it as a 5-year goal. By 5 years, we should achieve this in 100 schools, and then we realized that it was very unrealistic. But even now, we use this as a guiding principle to decide on what kind of activities we do, what kind of investments we make in the institutions that we support. So in order to account for this goal, we had to again change our index. So that time, Pratham report came to our rescue. How many of you have read the Asar report published by Pratham? Yeah, I think few, but so I'll just tell you for those who don't know. Every year, this organization called Pratham comes out with a report on the level of education in primary schools in India, across government primary schools in rural India. So the report was really damning. So that's what it said. So these are some examples of the findings of the report. 46.5% of the children could not solve simple two-digit subtraction. 5th standard children. And 52% of 5th standard children could not read some basic English words. It's a huge report, many-page report. I'm just giving you a sample of what the report looks like. So we thought we should do better in the schools that we work with. So we wanted to see how our teaching was helping them progress, and we wanted to make do things which will result in progress of learning levels. So our type 5 activity was number of like doing teaching 4 times in a month to the same set of students, right? So you do that and you give us a report on how they performed. So we set that as our new parameter. So if you just do regular teaching, it will be type 4 only. But after doing regular teaching, you have to tell us what was their level of learning level before you taught and what was the learning level after you taught. Only if you give us the report, we'll make it type 5. So this is how it was. And we also mandated that 30% of the volunteering hour of any council should be in type 5 activity. So even if you have large number of volunteering hours, if you don't do type 5 activity, you will never be green in the index. You will be yellow or red. So we made our index even more difficult to achieve. Moving on. And one more thing, we also eliminated number of activity and lives touched from our index. You know what was happening is because most of our work was in schools, we were teaching the same set of children, number of lives impacted was not making sense after a point. And then the number of activities, by the time some councils had like one activity every day of the month. So setting a benchmark of 8 was just redundant. So we removed off the number of activities benchmark. We just increased our benchmark for volunteering hours and mandated that 30% of volunteering hours should be in high impact activity. So, and because this is very difficult to achieve, we knew like people were all up in arms protesting, we do volunteering hours, few hours a week, and you want us to change the learning levels of children when teachers can't do it, working with them full time. So we had to also have a very concerted communication strategy to get people to buy into the goal. So this is how we launched the goal. This is one of the mailers we designed. You can read it, right? Read it. So this is like an idea we designed. Move to the next one. So we had this puzzle. Think of a number between 1 to 10, double the number and add 10, divide the result by 2, subtract your original number from the new result, multiply by number 10. We bet you got 50, which is the percentage of 10-year-old children who cannot do the basic maths which you just did. What can you do to change this equation? So this is the kind of communication strategy we had in place. Can you move on to the next one? And this led people to do set micro goals. If you're teaching for 1 month, is there a small goal which you can set for yourself? I'll make sure in this 1 month my children can recognize all English alphabets. In this 1 month, they can read so many words. Like this, they set themselves micro goals. So this is one example which won the best project that year. There was a 30-day challenge. This council set themselves a 30-day challenge. So every working day for 30 days, they will go and teach the children. And they have this goal, making sure they can read and write Tamil letters and write simple words in Tamil, do multiple digit additions, and do multiple digit subtraction. So when they started, all these figures were in single digit. 10% of the children were able to do all this. 12% of the children were able to do certain things. And after 30 days, this was the statistics. 90% of the students were able to read and write Tamil letters. Actually, we have flexible hours. A lot of our teaching happens in weekends, but during weekdays also people go and teach and they come back and finish their work. You know how our software companies are. We have late nights, long working hours. So there is a flexibility to go and do it in the working hours also. But we don't give any time off for them to do. In the sense, if they're going to go 1 hour and volunteer in school, they have to come back and compensate that volunteering hour during working. So we are inspired by this 30-day challenge, we started this 7-day challenge. So we had one outreach week and we got all the councils to have micro goals for the children they teach. In this 1 week, what can you teach your children, your primary school children? So after the end of 1 week, these were the statistics. This was from across all councils. 238 children from class 1 to 5 learned to recognize English alphabets. 89 children could recognize numbers. So we had very good statistics after the 7-day challenge. And this gave some confidence to volunteers that if not like dramatic change, getting everybody to pass or something like this, they can make in their own small way visible changes in the learning levels of the children. So this continued. Now we have continued this. By the time we reached 2014, it became more of like a norm. Everybody were measuring their performance and seeing how their teaching was resulting in improvement in the children. These are some example. In 2014, the Chief Education Officer of Coimbatore approached us and said they have a severe scarcity of computer science staff, because they were all, I think, contract employees, and suddenly one day everybody were removed from their position. So they wanted our help in teaching the 12th standard children. It was just 3 months before the board exam. So we selected 9 schools, and every day for 3 months our volunteers taught there. By the time they had become very proficient, they knew how to structure the syllabus so that they share the teaching, because same person won't be teaching, right? How they can work it out so that different group of volunteers would be able to go and effectively teach. And in these 9 schools, 98.8% of the children passed in computer science. So that is our 2014 story. By 2015, when we did an analysis of our index, what we realized is our initial goal of no volunteering left behind, no volunteer left behind, was suffering. Because by the time we had, like, in 2014, 20,000 associates had volunteered, and there were enough number of volunteers to do all the activities which the councils had planned. But there was nothing provided for new people who were coming into the organization who had not previously volunteers, to be able to volunteer. And our organization was also growing. Thousands of people were being added every year, but they were not. This has become outreach had become a closed group of volunteers who were doing their own thing. So in 2015, we set another parameter that 25% of the department's headcount should volunteer. That is the benchmark we set for them. So what happened was, yeah. No. Again, because nobody is given any, even the councils don't have that kind of authority to force anybody. You have to do it only by your influence. It's not that the CEO or BU head is asking you. No, they are actually full-time members of my team. Okay. So this led to a whole slew. Yeah? Performance, no. It's not part of anybody's KRA. As I said, our goal was never to make everybody volunteer. See, in the first year of our program, only 200 people volunteered, because we said we are not going to mandate nobody's KRA, nobody will be questioned. You can become a volunteer and you can drop out anytime, nobody will question you. But what happened, because we had this, the people who volunteered were those who were really interested in doing this, not because they wanted a better appraisal or better promotion or anything like that. And these 200 people set the trend for the whole organization, committed, passionate people, and they brought in more such people into the organization. And it was also federated, these councils were doing all the mobilization. Centrally, we were not doing top-down anything. So it was more like a referral system. One volunteer will encourage other volunteers. So we got more and more people who were truly interested in doing it.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Are you planning to venture out into other fields other than education? Say health?
See, we are looking at environment. We may expand to environment. See, we wanted to expand to health also, but our executive sponsor, the president of our company, who's the executive sponsor, he said we should keep our focus. If we diversify too much, we may not be able to make tangible difference in any field. And education.
There is a lot of impact that you create in education.
And health is not our, our specialty. Education, all of us are here because of the education we have received. We understand the space. Not as good as all the non-profits or education, but much better than what we understand healthcare. As of now, we don't have, but we have Cognizant Foundation, which is our funding arm, which funds infrastructure projects in healthcare and education. So they select non-profits who are doing good work and they fund projects for them. But as a volunteering arm, we don't plan to expand to healthcare.
What is the one big challenge as you're transitioning from 2007,
Okay. No problem.
to now? What is the transition challenges you've had? Like you're growing, every slide is growth and inspiring, but where are the pitfalls?
You mean in measurement or generally?
In general, and especially because that will tie into your management too.
Let me think, what were the challenges we had? Anything you want to add?
The challenge was getting regular volunteers.
The same people doing.
For instance, so index was one way where we were driving the behavior towards getting regular repeat volunteers. So initially when we started the program, there were many volunteers who came into the fold, but we were also struggling to understand how do we keep them engaged with the initiative? How do we get them to continue to volunteer for the program? That was one challenge we faced. Some of the other challenges Archana also mentioned was somewhere into the program we streamlined. There were many volunteers, but we were not having enough opportunities created for new volunteers to come into the fold. So when this 25 percentage coverage was mentioned, somebody raised a question about was it mandating, but the other idea to look at it was how do we create more opportunities for employees to volunteer. For someone who was not able to give their time during weekdays or weekend, we were creating desktop opportunities for them to engage themselves with. So these were some.
And also we were a diverse group of people across different geographies. We have like 15 countries in which we operate. So way we do volunteering here does not work in UK. So we had a lot of challenges expanding it to geographies outside India. And another challenge we faced was because we work predominantly with government institutions, there is always a political component. Having to navigate that was also a challenge. See, the thing is, as we moved up the value chain, doing regular volunteering, that only repeat volunteers will be able to do. So, as I said in the beginning section, it was like a pyramid. So, if you get 1,000 people to do one-off volunteering, about maybe 40% will go to doing it twice. By the time they reach the top of the pyramid, it's 10% of the volunteers only will be doing regular volunteering. But if you don't keep providing this base level volunteers with opportunities, you will never have enough people at the top of the pyramid. So our goal for regular volunteering is not that all the 20,000, 30,000 people become regular volunteers, but we want to get that highly skilled, highly motivated and highly passionate volunteers from this group of one-off volunteers.
How do you maintain the 10%?
That is like by giving the kind of opportunities which will engage regular volunteers. Like regular teaching, it is the same set of people who will be going and doing the regular teaching. There will be a group of 20 people for a school and they will be doing it week on week. So we have like a lake cleaning initiative. Every week there are a group of dedicated volunteers who lead that. So if you have certain activities which will engage them regularly, then they continue to do that.
I just heard that sustainability is one of the challenges. Is it on the single individual volunteer or is it like getting more number? What is the real challenge?
Getting more number is not a challenge, but getting them to become regular volunteers is where it is a challenge.
Two questions, not only in the larger picture they may not seem important. First one is when you make the index. Most of these decisions in corporates are made within, say, a top senior team from every council comes together, look at the ways of the business and come up with this index. Then you share it with your team. Some organizations allow teams to interact and give their suggestions. Some just say, this is it, follow this. In the first index, the way they prioritize the numbers, there were things like a blood donation camp was less than somebody teaching somebody, and who makes these critical decisions of what is more valuable? Is the blood of somebody you're saving a life directly?
Yeah, I understand. Because our goal was education, we wanted to focus on education. That's why blood donation was a lower priority.
So my question here was
Yeah.
that did you face flack on this fact that maybe your employees had different priorities as per your organization? So the aligning that
Yes, definitely we faced flack. But what we told them is nobody is stopping you from doing this activities. Even now, people who are passionate about donating blood, do it. Every quarter there are blood donation drives happening. But you will not be getting green in the index. You will get credit for your volunteering hours, your volunteers will be recognized. But if you want to get green in index, do what drives towards our common goal.
And also, how do you assess? I mean, teaching is something that seems very simple for all of us, but it's one of the most complex things to do. But most corporates are not generalizing, but because of engagements, most corporates go into things that are tangible, that can be felt, that is paint a wall, educate a child, that can really have a number put next to it. But there are a lot of issues that cannot be a tick box, right? There are a lot of things, and of which teaching is that. So if you say it's a continuous activity, one number is of course the number of children are increasing, and that's the final number that matters.
so we get content, we engage experts to get content so that people can, we also do regular training session. And normally regular teaching, what happens is, suddenly one person, new volunteer doesn't get into regular teaching. They start with, doing some art and craft session, helping in conducting R&D school competition. And then when they start doing regular sessions, they have experienced volunteers with whom they're tagged. So these experienced volunteers, they'll have to do those things with experienced volunteers and then move up the.
No, the only reason I'm saying this is because we have fantastic teachers in our country and we have a whole bunch of teachers who suck, right? But the problem is the government right now is also trying to find ways of how to measure the way a teacher performs, right? And that itself is so contested in our country today. So we are saying that a teacher doing a B.Ed and MPhil and everything and then going in is still unable to make an impact because of XYZ factors which are more systemic. So how can a volunteer who has had no experience in the space of teaching, is not having anybody professionally, regularly assessing them like a government teacher is assessed or even a private teacher is assessed, what is the guarantee that they're giving the community apart from that one number that there are more children passing out and things? I mean, number is one, but the quality of that number is another thing, right? We have number of engineers passing out every day, but we know ourselves how many of them go to grooming schools and etiquette classes and English schools. So, and especially from spaces like tech background, there are a lot of engineering students who are in a very different form of educational background. So I was just wondering, if your focus is education, how far do you focus on educating your employees to educate?
Yeah, that's what, as I said, this is how we move up the value chain, and we also are not like, arrogant in thinking that we can replace the teacher. We just look at complementing the efforts of the teacher. Whatever teaching we do it in consultation with the teacher and the principal, and they say this is the gap we have. Like for example, the chief education officer came and said, teach computer science. We don't have staff. So it's always a partnership. We don't look at them as somebody to whom we are donating. It's a partner. We call each of these schools our partners, and everything we do is in consultation, and we defer to the opinion of the teachers there. I think I'll just
But can
finish
you
off.
just park all the
please.
questions for the Q&A? We have 15 minutes for that. So I think.
Anyway,
just
I
get
have
to
the last few slides. So where was I? I was telling that we said 25% of our volunteers should, in each BU should volunteer. You should have opportunities for 25% of the people to volunteer. Only then you will be in green. That's how our index became at that point. So it created a whole slew of volunteering opportunities. I'm very concerned about this painting because everybody seemed to have uniformly condemned the painting. But we started this as an opportunity for our design BU. They're all designers and artists, and we said you come and paint educative murals on the wall. So we started it for our design department, but everybody in Cognizant wanted to be an artist. So we had in 1 year 91 schools painted with murals like this. And the principal was telling, if you just walk into the classroom and the children walk into the classroom for the first time, it's such a pleasure to see their expression, their classrooms so colorful. And then this is a translation program which we do in partnership with another non-profit. So the goal of this World Possible, this non-profit, is to make education content available for children who do not have access to the internet. So we help translate Khan Academy content into local languages. So we do it in 10 languages, including Arabic and Chinese and all that. We translate for them. So they also organize volunteering marathons. So across locations, 24 hours, they will organize various activities for volunteers to engage. So it created a slew of new opportunities for our volunteers. So in 2015, 32,900 associates volunteered, which was a 32% increase from 2014. So moving on. So this is how we stand today. When we launched the index that year, we clocked 1 lakh volunteering hours. And this quarter alone, we have clocked 1 lakh volunteering hours. We've kept steadily growing. And this quarter alone, we've clocked 1 lakh volunteering hours. And a lot of this is in high value volunteering, what we deem as high value volunteering. This is where we stand today. Over 1 million volunteering hours. 50,000 associates have volunteered for outreach. And we have 15 countries in which we have volunteering programs. And some other insights from the index I wanted to share. See, we didn't look at these numbers as static entities. We looked at them as living entities which were giving us valuable insights on how we can structure the program. So, for example, our testing business unit was there. It's 7,000 odd people, and we had one council, testing council, and they were always in the red. Like many years, we struggled to understand why they were in red. So, we did an analysis of the data. While we were doing the analysis of our impact index data, we found that average volunteering hours clocked was much higher for smaller BUs. Like if a BU was 2,000 or less, then average volunteering hour clock for a person is much higher than like if a BU was 5,000. So what we did is we approached the testing business unit in a different way. We split them up into smaller groups of 1,000, and for each group of 1,000 we created a council, an outreach council, and this resulted in them 4 times the volunteering hours in 1 year. So in 2012 they clocked 4,000 volunteering hours. By 2013 they had clocked 16,000 volunteering hours. So these kind of insights also we got from index, which helped strengthen the way we execute the program. And creating the index was itself not enough. It's not like a financial figure, 1 billion in revenue, or even volunteering hours everybody understands, but index is not an industry standard. So we had to build a brand for the index, and we did that through a very concerted and strategic communication plan. So we used to communicate like this. These are the councils which ace the index. They got 100 in the index. And what does it actually mean? When a council gets green index, these are the kind of things that happen. 11,000 children are learning English every week. 90 children from 11 government schools have been groomed to become chess champion. 26 students in remote school are getting tutored through Skype. 3,000 children hours have been spent in teaching the same set of children. So this is what it means if you are green in index. This is the kind of impact you can create. And while we shared the numbers, we also shared interesting and heartwarming stories of what were happening on the ground. So this is a painting by one of our students, which was which traveled in the Maven Mars mission to Mars. It was put in the spacecraft and it went there. So we shared that story. And we run this scholarship program for the students that in our schools. Top 3% of the students in our school, we provide scholarship for graduation. And the first batch passed out last year, and 2 of them joined Cognizant. So we shared that story along with the numbers in the index. So it was not just plain boring numbers, but also what was happening because of these numbers. So if you want to know what is the reason for the success of index, we made measurements reflect our goal. It was not, a vanity metrics. If we had merely measured the volunteering hours of our organization, we would have gone a different way. There would have been huge activities and like one day event where all schools get painted. Those kind of activities would have happened. But we made sure we had specific goals and our measurements reflected those goals. And we kept on listening to the data. As we saw the results happening, we modified our measurements so that it reflects our newer and better goals. And we regularly evolve the index. And the second reason I think for success is we had a very good communication strategy. We had the discipline of collecting this data from 50 councils, and imagine thousands of volunteers every month. We had to collect their volunteering hours and what work they do and do this calculation. It was a lot of effort. But even from my team, I faced a lot of protest. This is too much. We are spending so much time doing this. But then it really helped build the brand for the index and wanted people like if a department got red in the index, the BU head will call me. What is happening? Why is my index in red? My volunteers are doing all this. So what should I do to make it green? So that it was such an aspirational thing for all the BU heads. And we also kept it relevant, relevant to